Most of the material I've made tonight has been using singing bowls. But this is actually looking at other ways using mostly sound, but with other ideas for cleansing and blessing a place. I'm going to look at later, I'm going to have a video on is the place a more cultist but with paranormal overtones? Is your place, quote, haunted? If it is, how do you live with the spirits? How do you make a ghost house? And how do you make offerings so that you and the spirits can coexist in as much peace as possible? But this is more just you've moved in somewhere, you know that there's no major haunting, but it's got bad vibes. So, what are some of the things you can do? I mean, the traditional that everyone thinks of is you take your white sage and you smudge it, and you might, and I do have a rattle. You can rattle. Um, if this was actually a quarter maraca from Goodwill, I think that I just painted up. But you can, I know that in the Japanese, some of the Japanese systems, if I understand correct, you can clap. The point is, if you've got stagnant energy there, you want to move it. Now, there's another thing you can use: little sleigh bells. Um, I know at the Gray School they talked about, and I wouldn't mind doing this if I can find one. Um, you can, Michael's and some of the craft stores around Halloween have those small cinnamon scented brooms. If you're very much witchy oriented, get a little broom and basically, and I think it overlaps with some hoodoo uh, ways of clearing. You start at the very end of the house away from your front door and you basically sweep everything toward the door and you keep sweeping. And if you're in an apartment, you're sort of screwed, but especially if you're in a basement. But if it's your home, you sweep it out the front door and sweep the energy into the lawn. Um, I actually found that if you're going to do that, you got to sweep the ceiling too, especially if you're in an apartment, because the whoever's upstairs is sending energy through. They may not intentionally be sitting down going, I'm going to blast you with nasty energy. But the fact is, it's a wall, it's not a shield, unless you put shielding up there. So you're going to have negative energy, you're going to have whatever bad vibes and stuff. You may have shields all over the place except up above. That's a place to do cleaning too. Now, one of the things that I found interesting in my Taoist magic studies is fans. I ended up, since I tend to use fans, I've ended up making a distinction between fanning out the negative chi, and I do this in people too. I'll work with somebody, and instead of using feathers, I will use the black fan with the intention that any excess negative energy or yin chi or whatever you want to call it is fanned out, or maybe it's shifted or moved to the ground level, and then you pick it up and you put it in, you basically shift it. But I'm going to have a video on mental alchemy and shifting energies later on. And then the white fan shifts in, brings in the good chi. You can do the same thing at the home, especially if it's a pleasant place to do it. I mean, my parents' house had, until we got it cleaned up, they had been hoarders and there was so much stuff there. I wouldn't have tried using fans because the energies were so intense. And the fans, the fans, they're powerful, but if you get too much stuff, I think a broom works better, or even spritzing. Um, I make, I know that the way you're supposed to do it traditionally in magic is you're supposed to put holy water with some consecrated salt in a chalice, and then you're supposed to either use an herbal, a springer, or use your fingers. Well, I regularly clean my apartment in the morning and in the evening. So I got a couple plastic spray bottles from I think it was Kmart Garden Shop, or was it Hy-Vee? Buck a piece. I fill one with my version of cleansing water, and I go around and I chant a little chant about how this place is cleaned elementally. Then the other is filled with my version of blessing water. A really good recipe is Marie Laveau's uh, water, and you can find it in different formularies, and I'm sure you can find recipes online too. Um, the 5,000 Spells book, the Element book of 5,000 Spell, or encyclopedia, the exact title, the Element Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, has a good formulary in it, and that's where I found the Marie Laveau water recipe. But I adapted it. I basically make my own Cannon water now. But you can, I think, in some parts of Tibet, they go on the outskirts with their mala, and they just do Chenrezi's mantra. Om mani padme hum, om mani padme hum, om. They go through the whole place. And in going through the whole place, they then have cleansed it and blessed it in one. So there's a wide variety of things you can do to do a clearing. First you got to do as physical clean as possible. Scrub what you can scrub, vacuum, remove the trash, clear the clutter, things like that. Then you can now, I like to use juniper, um, but I also rotate my, shall we say, cleansing incenses. Um, a lot of people just use white sage. I like to rotate. I work on the theory that the subconscious starts building, um, it gets tired of it. Oh, not this again. So if I rotate every few months, my standard is gum copal with juniper with some saranus, and then I make little squares I burn, and then I waft it around for cleansing. But sometimes I do use Palo Santo. Um, I've got some other recipes I haven't been using recently. Sometimes I will actually just burn pine leaves or pine needles. Sometimes I get fresh rosemary from the grocery, let it dry a bit and burn that. So there's different ways. There's different things you can do to cleanse and bless a place without having to go out and buy expensive sage and without having to do big fancy rituals. Getting big fancy tools. A lot of it is intention. A lot of it is realizing that, okay, you've got to clean it in all the levels. And a lot of it is just being willing to do it regularly and then making sure you fill it with positive energy. It's fine to get the negative out, sweep it out with your cinnamon broomstick. But then don't just leave it there. Put up some kind of shielding. Imagine filling the place with light. If you do prayers, pray that the light comes in, or that God or whatever you believe in comes in and blesses the place so that your place is full, and see some kind of protective shield so that the blessings don't get worn away too fast. It's just some ideas. We're used to uh, smudging, and there's so many people do house clearings. They only do one thing. Well, there's so many other things we can do. And the bowls are one thing, but you can take bells. If you've got a regular bell, which I don't have technically, you can do rattles. You can do rain sticks. There's all sorts of things. The best way to do it is to have a party and everyone sit around after you've cleansed the place and laugh. Sit around telling silly, bawdy jokes and just spend hours laughing. If that doesn't give you good vibes, I don't know what will.